Yeah, thank you. All right, everyone, welcome to the Nicole and Craig Show. We've got an awesome show. I'm sitting next to one of my favorite friends on the planet, Kimberly Collins. Kimberly, you are an amazing realtor with eXp Realty. Is that right?
I am. I am.
How long have you been with them now?
I've been with them, you know what? I was going to say this makes exactly a year, but it doesn't. I would say in about 2 weeks, it was like the 23rd of July. And I hope that's not on a Sunday. And somebody says, she joined on a Sunday? But anyway, it was like at the end of July. So it'll be a year now. It doesn't seem like it, does it?
No.
Time's like, 2020 took over a lot of that. And so time flew by.
I feel like it's been more than a year now that I think about it, right?
It do?
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like COVID year was like a weird year.
Like 3 years.
Yeah, it was like a million.
It
Yeah,
took 3 years.
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay. But I love it. I love where I'm at. I love what I'm doing. I'm so grateful to be on the show. Craig is one of my very, very good friends. You wouldn't know it if you heard our conversations because they're always arguing.
Mm-hmm.
But, when I leave and stop talking to him, I'm always a better person. And usually because I haven't said anything wrong, or said anything that was incriminating.
That's right. And usually when I argue with Kimberly, I find out where I was wrong, but it just takes me, I'm hard-headed, so it takes me a while to come to that realization. But she's a great friend that helps broaden my horizons.
And that's why we're talking about what we're talking about today, right?
What? That's a good point. You know what we should talk about today? We're going to talk about diversity, and that's what, and as it pertains to the real estate community.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's a very touchy conversation, I know.
Yep.
And actually being the diversity chair for Northwest Indiana, it has been a pleasure. It's been very nervous at times, wondering how this is going to go.
Yep.
Wondering what people are going to say. Are they going to be receptive to it? So far, so good. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who think, what the heck is this about?
Yep.
And
Yep.
why? You know what? I'm hoping that we're going to have a lot more explanation coming up soon. We already know why. We get all that together, but we're going to be able to present that to the membership, the board, the executive committees. We're going to bring some really good stuff for you guys. So I'm glad I got to come here today to talk about diversity in real estate.
Well, I'm glad to have you too, and I'm excited to have the conversation as well. And we're going to go right into it, and we're going to limit it to our 5 kind of topics like we normally do. So here's what we're going to say. Well, first of all, I know you're thinking, why is diversity important to you and stuff like that, whatever. First of all, most of our clients, this is Northwest Indiana, we are a good mix, like a good melting pot of society. We've got pretty much every religion, every ethnicity, every geographic location represented. So I think
multicultural.
Very, very.
Very.
And I think we need to know that. And you know what? There's a lot of agents that really don't understand certain parts of different cultures and stuff like that, and I'm guilty of that myself.
Me too. Yeah. I'm learning as I go. I didn't come here being an expert on diversity, so I don't want anybody to think, where's her PhD? I don't have one. I just live a life, and I just love learning, and this opportunity is, when you get ready to learn something that you're already immersed in, you just get more deeper and deeper into it. So I'm really grateful that we can talk about it, bring the two, real estate and diversity together. This is interesting. Touchy and interesting. You want to know why? I got to say this.
Please do.
I don't want to cut you off.
No,
but you know what? As realtors, we're taught not to talk about this stuff. Yeah. We're taught to go around it. It's a no-no. You don't want to talk. You want to make sure everybody is just, there's no identity. You just go with them with the house they look for. It doesn't matter what culture they're with, and you want to be very careful and all that. And I think we need to change a little bit of that.
I agree. And you know what? We're going to talk about a little bit of that on our second topic, too, with identification. That remind me, because I have it's a joke, but it's real.
Okay.
It's a funny thing.
I got to remind you of a joke.
Well, I'll write it down. I'll write it down. But yeah, it's like, okay, so our clients are multicultural. So I think it's important for us to be multicultural. And that doesn't mean you got to fake anything. It's just be respectful of other cultures. That's all there is to it. I mean, we love our customers. We're trying to help them achieve a goal, and that's buying or selling property. And we're going to help them. I don't know where ethnicity or anything that really comes into play, but maybe you've seen more. As you've been the diversity chair for over a year now.
It hasn't been over a year yet.
It has not?
It's only been 9 months. Not even 9. I think we started in October.
Oh, it's like, yeah, all right. It's like little diversity, baby.
Yeah. No, but you're right. You had brought something to my mind with this diversity thing, right? And you know what? My brain just skipped it when I started laughing.
Really?
What were we just talking about?
I don't even know. No.
Boy,
no, multicultural.
Multicultural.
Yeah.
I heard that. And I don't know if this is, don't quote me on any of this, but they said that when I was in my At Home with Diversity, which I'll be the At Home with Diversity instructor for Northwest Indiana. So we're going to be doing a lot of that. And one of the things they talked about is that Native Americans won't buy a house, or is it Asian? I'll make sure I understand this before I give a class. But one of them won't buy a house with the number 13 on it.
Okay.
You know, and I was like, really? So we learned a lot. We learned about how people just pick up one kind of tradition and carry it on and not know exactly what that is. And that's what we want to get more relationship with our clients, right? So you should know more about them. If you're working with a Native American client, don't you think you should know a little bit? I mean, you don't have to know everything, but just a little bit, some things that may offend them. And that's what I'm hoping we can train other agents on, those little things that might offend a different culture.
I like it. And I think that's important for everyone to know. And before we get too into this, I mean, in no way, shape, or form are we trying to say we're the experts on diversity and you need to do it our way or you're wrong. Like, we're not doing that. And then keep the comments clear or clean, because if they're offensive, we're probably just going to remove it. And if you disagree with our opinion, that's fine. We don't care.
Yeah.
You care?
No.
You care if someone watches the show, doesn't like it? I don't care.
I do care about that. I want
else.
you guys to like it.
I don't.
But
I want you to like the show, but if you don't, it's all right. Yeah, sometimes I don't. I rewatch it, I'm like, that show's terrible.
Oh, I hope not.
I'm just kidding.
But you know what? I like all your shows, so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so my thing is, and here's something where I'm going to disagree with, equal housing and NAR and all that kind of stuff, is, they said we have these 7 protected classes, and I think they're talking about increasing it. I think it's at 9 actually already, in our code of ethics and things like that. First of all, I don't believe, I don't like that. I don't think, protected classes, I don't think long-term, I don't think it works.
Okay.
I think there should be no discrimination ever for anyone, unless they can't afford the house, then they shouldn't be looking at it. But other than that, I don't think you should discriminate. I don't think it's fair for any reason to discriminate. I don't think it, but I'm not going to discriminate because of this.
So you're saying that you're against discrimination, but you don't think we need all of these protected classes?
I think it should just be, you shouldn't be able to discriminate for any reason except for the only important reason is, can you afford this property?
Okay.
That should be it.
I think it's a shame that it has to be, though, right?
Yeah, I agree.
This is the thing that, Charlie, the national director of NAR, right?
Yeah.
Charlie Opla was saying that, the leaders have to know the story. And so did, a lot of the CEOs of IAR had said the same thing. When you guys know the story and all the things that happened to keep specifically Black people out of housing, we just want to get where that we can correct that. So Black people are a protected class, and they had to become a protected class because there was things that were happening back then.
Well, and it's not even Black people are a protected class. It is race is a respect, or ethnicity is
exactly.
Yeah. I believe we're all the human race. I don't.
That's why I put a color in there. That's why I put a race.
Because
I
hate the term.
So
we're all human beings.
We're all human beings, but at the end of the day, we all have to have. It was a reason to put those protected classes into place, right? And like I said, the reason why I went on the Black thing is because remember there was a specific contract somewhat, I can say that they said to not sell to Black people. We could not own property.
Redlining was that exact policy.
Exactly. And I know I was talking to them and they were saying that, they want to right those wrongs. Yeah. And that's why NAR is doing such a great job right now.
Microphone.
Oh, right here? So that's why NAR is doing such a great job right now by doing an apology, by doing all they're doing for diversity. They're doing an amazing job. And I'm just thinking that I'm glad they're doing it right now. And I know a lot of people think like you do. What's the big deal? I mean, why are we going through, why are we making such a big deal out of this? It has to be done, because if we don't start doing this sometime, it'll never get done. And I know slowly but surely we have gotten better as a country, but there's still things that we need to go a lot faster in getting done. And you know what? I told you my real reason for doing all this is my grandchild. She's biracial. She's, you know what? They told me that we could stop saying that word too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were saying multicultural, because people are like, what does biracial mean? So we're not doing multicultural. And I like whatever makes those feel better. And then my granddaughter even told me she didn't like biracial either. Multicultural. And I hope that I can make a difference for her. And when she goes to buy a house, I hope that the color of her skin or her gender or none of that makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
One day we'll get there, but now we're not.
I think we're on, I think we're on a better path. And you and I, we've talked at length about this.
Yeah.
I think things are better now than they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago,
Absolutely.
30 years ago, 40, and so on. So I think every decade we get a little bit better. I think each generation we get a little bit better. As much as I would love to be able to snap my fingers right now and take away all discrimination, it's not reasonable. But I still think the United States is much better in our country than most other countries. I can't think of anyone that I think do it better than we do.
Right.
But I don't have that experience in all other countries either.
Right. And that's why I'm glad we're talking about these topics right now. We're talking about them, but we're going to get we're going to get much more in depth.
Are we scared of these topics?
What? I'm not scared.
Yeah,
Why would I be scared? I'm scared. But
I can see taking this video down. They're worried I'm going to say something.
At the end of the day, I'm glad that this is a tough topic. This is a tough situation, and we're in real estate. We're making some changes, right? And this is one of the biggest changes we're making, because this is where some of the biggest what do I say? Some of the biggest mistakes, some of the biggest wrongs, some of the biggest,
Historically,
in real estate. So I'm glad, and I'm nervous, not right now on this video. I'm more nervous just about getting this out here and making sure it's understood, and letting people know we're not coming out here to make anybody upset. We really want to figure out how to collaborate and how to make this work for everybody. If you're serving all these clients and these customers, you should know what we're going through. You should know, and I'm not just singling myself out as a minority. I mean, that's obvious, but I'm just saying I want to know what you're going through too, because right now, being a Caucasian man, you're going through a lot of different things too. It's like you're almost being discriminated against as well for just being you.
Yeah, you know what? I'll be honest. I have not ever experienced any discrimination, or at least I was oblivious to it. So I think so I have a hard time really understanding what it would be like, because I don't think I've ever experienced it. I think it would be horrible. I did get mad one time. I got a ticket from a DNR, a Department of Natural Resources officer.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
What about when people say things that Caucasian people have done to African American people, and you feel, I've heard you say, I didn't do anything?
I didn't. Well, because first of all, I don't think I'm a steward for white people. Let's just say that, right? I don't have to say Caucasian. I've never like,
nobody.
I don't even know what the heck that term means.
It's just more politically
I don't like it.
correct.
I don't like the way it sounds.
I hear that all the time.
But anyway, yeah. So I don't like that. But
I'm not a fan of African American.
Is that right?
No, I like black.
Yeah. Well, and that's I got no problem with that either. Well, and that's one of my jokes I'll do.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just like, one of my favorite things is listen to a white person try to describe a black person without saying black. They're like, they had dark hair, they had brown eyes, and they start going through, and it's like, come on, just say it. It's, first of all, that's not. I never thought that as derogatory.
You know what? Listen to a kid explain who someone is.
Yeah.
When I would ask my granddaughter, I was trying to find out who was in her class. I was like, "What's she look like?" Well, she's got long hair, and she's kind of short. And I was like, okay, and I wanted to say, what color is she? And she would never get it. I would have to actually ask her, and she'd say, Grandma, that's racist. So kids are learning. I'm grateful. Let's get to the list.
All right, let's get back to the list. Okay, so we're going to go into number 3, referrals. How do we handle referrals? What if you have do you ask your customer? Now this one, I don't know. I don't do as much referral business as the next agent, but what do you think? How do you handle referrals? If you have someone that's let's say they're moving to Texas, what do you do? Or any state, I don't care.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know myself, right? So when we were at Home with Diversity, they were talking about that. What do you say? How do you say it? You just ask. You want to ask, what is your first language?
Okay.
That's the most clear way to say, if you're talking to someone, say they're Asian, and you have Korean, you have Asian, you have
hold on, Asian still
you have Korean, you have Chinese. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so you have all these different
like Hispanic, people, if your Spanish is your first language, you could be from Spain, you could be from many South American countries, So
you want to ask what the first language is, right? So
okay.
if someone says, you're looking at them, I don't know, I'm not going to be ignorant and say nobody all looks alike, right? But I just don't know the different cultures and the different changes in the face or anything like that, or I don't know how to pick up the tones. How do I find out? I just ask, what is your first language?
There you
If
go.
they say
That's a
my
good
first
one.
language is English, then we're good. I can send you anywhere, right? It doesn't matter what you look like. But if your second language is English, then I want to know what your first language is. So then I can look for, because we have Chinese, we have a Korean realtor, and I would want to send you to the Korean realtor and not a Chinese realtor because they don't speak the same language.
That's right. No, that's a good point. And you know what, too, also from the sex standpoint, too, like sometimes you might have a female client that is more comfortable working with a male client
like that.
or a
Yes.
female client. So that might be something that you have to ask them. Like, I don't have any problem. I always say this, and I tell my agents this too. You can make any decision that you want, right? We live in a free nation here, but without infringing on someone else's rights, that's the important characteristic. But I think I just ask them, hey, do you have a preference whether you work with a male or a female agent?
Okay.
Because when I used to run a different company, that would happen sometimes where we would have a client say, hey, I don't want to work with a female agent, I want to work with a male agent, or vice versa. It would happen all the time.
Right.
And
I
it
think
was
that's
not
great.
all the time, but it happened more frequently than anything else.
That's a great question. That's good.
Yeah.
I think that's something I don't think I've asked anyone yet.
Yeah.
Would you prefer a male or female realtor?
Yeah, and sometimes you might have a husband and a wife situation, or even a wife and a wife couple, or whatever. They might want more.
Now that might be a little touchy.
Yeah.
No pun intended. That might be a little tricky.
Kim, we're not editing any of this out.
Okay. So
no,
it might be a
I'm
little
just
tricky.
kidding.
I mean, so I think just to be safe, I like the gender.
Yeah.
I don't think I would want to go any further into that.
I don't think I would either. I would just say, hey, do you have a preference on male or female? Is there anything else that would be important to you on the agent? Because you know how we find a referral agent. Most of the time, if we're in a corporate company, we're just going to look in that area for that. We're going to pick an office in the area that they want to move to, and we're going to do that.
You know what, though?
What?
I get a lot of people calling me for other black clients.
That's good. Well, and I've worked with black buyers before that said, hey, Craig, no offense to you, but I'd prefer to do business with a black agent.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Well, that's probably twice. But I know it's happened.
I have not had anyone tell me that about a Caucasian person.
White. Are there any different colors for Caucasian? I don't know.
White, black.
And my sons are multicultural.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. And so I think that's a great thing, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We might joke and kid, but this is some serious good take-home stuff, and I'm going to take it home myself. And next time I refer somebody, I'm going to ask. But you know what? What's important? Listen, I don't know if we did number 2, which is identification. Right?
We didn't. I think we can move on to it. I think we're done with referrals. Ask the client. What's important to you?
Right.
Execute.
Right. And I think, you want to make sure that you're being mindful of that person's, what they want and what they're looking for and how they, if you got a client that is, like they want all the bullet points. You know what I mean? You got some of those clients that I love trying to do a personality test. I don't ask them to do it. I just study the personality test thing so I can know if I'm working with different, you know what I'm talking about, this personality. Because if that person is more of a, I just give me the numbers, don't give me all the fluff. I don't want to hear about how you want to change the world by selling real estate one house, one door at a time. I just want to find a house. You know what I mean? Some people
there's a knock on my status right there, but all right.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's what I did one time. Like I did that recently. I checked in at my office and I said, changing the world one door at a time or something like that.
I didn't know that. Maybe that's where I subconsciously got it from. But
I thought it was a good dig against me. But that's good. It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't purposely. But if you identify with a person and figure out what's their most important thing. Like I was just telling Craig the other day, and I said, listen, I am proud to be a black woman, and if you call me African American and you just continue to say African American and you don't ask me what my preference is, I feel like it almost takes away a little bit of my identification because I don't really identify as a African American person. I have my reasons. And again, when we talk about at home with diversity, we're going to talk about the difference between black and African American. We don't have enough time on the show today, but I love to, we're going to definitely talk about that. But I identify as a black female, and I don't want to be identified as. And
I also identify as a black female.
And you do well at it too.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
So at the end of the day.
Stereotype.
Right, very stereotype. All this is getting cut. I know it. But
none of this is getting cut.
At the end of the day,
we don't pay John enough to edit video.
Okay. So, at the end of the day, I just think that identification is something we should be paying close attention to and asking and just figuring out what's the best way to ask somebody. Just like I said, what's your first language? Do you prefer male or female? Now that I'm going to definitely put that in my repertoire. And, just asking how, if something, like I work with a transgender person. She wanted to be called she, but she was still with her parents, and her parents identified her as a he still. She's transitioning, and so it was very tricky, but it was so rewarding to be able to give that person the peace. And you know what? We're still friends today. We're good friends. And she's still transitioning, and her mother and father are still coming around to it. But during the house buying process, we had to make sure I didn't call her a she, because they still identified her as a her. So this person was going through this and just wanted to find a home and find someone who respected their pronouns. And she told me that, and I had to pronounce it because I have to remind myself it's still a practice for me too. And she told me that a few people just would not call her she. And so she just didn't feel respected. That identification is very important. Figure out what's important to me. If you're going to sell me one of the biggest pieces of property of mine, or one of the biggest purchases of my life, then at least have a little bit more interest in me, other than when am I going to sign the papers.
Yeah, I guess I could see all that. I don't know. And again, because I've never been in that situation, I think I have a hard time identifying with it and things like that. I don't think I ever try to be overtly offensive to people. Right. My biggest thing is I usually would make a joke that they didn't find funny or something like that. Well, okay, all jokes. A lot
of us find none of your jokes funny.
but that's okay, and just as much as I believe the other person has that right to not like that joke, I don't care. I mean, sometimes I go to the drive-thru and they'll call me ma'am when I'm like, hand me a large black coffee. And then they're like, okay, ma'am, please pull around. I'm like, oh, okay. I put a lot of extra bass. Okay, yes, no problem, I will. I want you to know I'm a sir, but really, I don't get offended.
So how would that have been for you if that person asked you to call her she?
I don't have I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I don't have a problem, and plus it's easy when if I just met him, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Now if she looked like me with a beard and chest hairs sticking out, 3 chest hairs sticking out,
and yeah,
then I would have a harder time with that probably. But I would do my best. I mean, I don't think anyone wants to intentionally be disrespectful.
Exactly.
And I think what's
they just don't know, Craig. Well, you don't know, and that's why we're doing all this.
But here's another thing I would say though: if you're making a choice for you,
right?
I chose to wear this shirt today,
right?
I may have been made fun of by John and some of his people about my shirt, making fun of my shirt. That's fine. But I wore this shirt because it's the shirt I put on today.
Your youngest son shirts. I said, Craig, he's got the best sense of style.
Yeah.
So but at the end of the day,
ago?
yeah, it looks like no, you look great. Listen, I mean seriously, I get what you're saying.
Well, my point was, if you make a choice for you, it's one of those things. When I make a choice for me, I don't get offended if someone else doesn't agree with my choice. You know what I mean? I don't get that hurt about it because I didn't do it for other people's acceptance or anything like that.
Right.
I did it for my heart, my core. I've made decisions that my parents didn't support.
Yeah.
They weren't fans of. And guess what? I drove on. I went about my business. Would I like it more if they were on my side, on my same side? Of course. But they weren't, and that's the reality. And sometimes we just what do they say at my kids' daycare all the time? You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. It's kind of like we have the in this country we have the right of something the pursuit of happiness, right?
Yeah.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Nowhere does it say in the Constitution you have the right to never be offended. You know what? It's like I don't think we should have such soft skin and be so easily wounded when it comes to our ego. But I would say this: there's a fine line, being discriminatory.
Okay, and that's number 4. So I'm glad we're going to it because it feeds right.
Well, we're going up. We already did no discrimination. We already did that one. We're going to number 1 after this one. But
okay.
But what I'm saying is, I'll never discriminate against other people, regardless. I don't. I don't have any biases when it comes to that kind of stuff. But if I accidentally make a mistake, like for instance, I had a cousin that transitioned, and well, it's my cousin's daughter, who then now is my cousin's son. I didn't have any problem with that, and there were some people in the family that did have problems, or just because they just didn't understand it or whatever, and I didn't have a problem. I chipped in and donated money for them to go to a special school that, where it's more like they don't have to worry about being harassed all the time when they're just seeking a better education and things like that. So anyway, it's kind of like something like that. I don't have to go out and be an advocate either, but I don't have to. But I'm not going to discriminate. Right. And that's where you and I get into it a little bit. Is you
say something?
Yeah. If you don't say anything, you're complicit. I disagree.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're gonna go into number one because I think that touches on this.
And it just touched on what he said: being tolerant, right?
Be tolerant.
I was like, you got to be tolerant. We have to be tolerant of each other. And I'm really grateful for our relationship because
Me too.
At times I need that pushback. I need to know how you feel as a white man, and I'm glad that you want to know how I feel as a black woman. And when we talk about like if that shirt, being tolerant, just because you might have on, like one guy got out of his car and he had on all this political gear, right? And can I say Trump gear?
Of course.
Okay,
yeah.
so he had on all this Trump gear, and he looked at me as if I was going to have something to say, And of course, just like anyone else, we're out there we're professional. I'm not going to say anything about that. I don't talk politics. I don't talk religion. I don't talk all that with my clients, you know. And so, but I just looked at me. It's just the hat he was wearing. It wasn't offensive to me because I'm not. It wasn't, but that's just me. To somebody else, it could have been quite offensive. I could have been scared. I was in an area that I have been followed home. I'm not going to say that area here. We'll talk about that, on a more personal scale. But I've had places where me and my clients, who were dark Native Americans and myself, we came out of a house and they pulled up on us like 6 deep, and they gave my client a citation based on someone he was following or who was in front of him, and they didn't tell him what the citation said. They just said, "Look, it's going to be on record." And we left there, and we didn't look in that area anymore because they didn't feel safe anymore. Yeah. They didn't feel protected. So again, we were in that same area when he jumped out with all of these, Trump and the car stickers and stuff like that. And he looked at me, and then he said something about his multicultural daughter or something. I guess to make me feel at ease. I didn't think one way or another, but I can see how that would be. I don't think it's offensive to people. I don't know. That's that being tolerant. That was me being tolerant because I don't. And I'm glad he said that. He didn't need to.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of friends, all different races, that had voted for Trump. So, and they were black. They were Hispanic. So I don't look at someone who votes for a certain person and automatically thinks that. But I do have a lot of friends who do.
Yeah.
So we just have to love thy neighbor. I'm stealing off the sheet. He's got that there.
Yeah.
So I want to beat him to it. And at the end of the day, I'm tolerant. Now, if you came in here with some kind of shirt that was offensive to me, if I did not know you, I got to be tolerant, right? But if I knew you, I should be able to say, Craig, can you explain? I'm offended. And you're saying that even if I'm offended, I shouldn't say, go take that shirt off. And you're not going to go take the shirt off, right?
Yeah, I might.
I think I'm just going to be as tolerant as I can be and have to love my neighbor as much as I can.
Yeah, I look at it like this. I mean, I can't help it if someone gets offended. I try not to be offensive, but guess what? Sometimes people are going to get offended, and I apologize when I did not mean to, and I didn't intentionally offend someone. But let's say they just got offended. Like, let's say I worked at the drive-thru at McDonald's when I was 16 years old. If I accidentally said sir to a ma'am or ma'am to a sir, and they came up to the drive-thru and all mad at me, one, I would apologize just to be polite, but I didn't really care. I didn't care what they had to say. I didn't know them. You're listening through a crackly speaker. Back in those days were terrible. They're probably not much better. Everyone has different accents, different dialects and things like that. So it's hard. I'm a 16-year-old kid trying to understand all this stuff. Right. I don't care. You get offended by that, suck it up, buttercup. I don't care. I didn't intend to offend you. But if they come to the drive-thru, I mean, it's like this. I'm at a restaurant. I'm not going to not serve the customer, right? Otherwise, I shouldn't be at that business. And I look at it as realtors as the same thing.
Okay.
We're helping people. It's kind of a job, but it's like a career. And yeah, I mean, do the best you can at all times. Why would you do anything half-ass or to where you're not, give it your all, or why are you doing it?
That's true.
Yeah.
And, and I think at the end, being tolerant and just trying to figure out, I think if you can be, I understand, that's you got to deal with it. I'm not going to carry your troubles around on my shoulders.
Thank you. That's a good way to put it.
That's what he said. That's not what I'm going to carry. Exactly. And you know what? And I'm accepting of that behavior. I'm accepting of that mindset, right? Because that's what I have to do, because I'm an American and you're an American, and you have a right to feel the way you feel. Whether I agree with it, whether I believe it, whether it offends me. If it offends me, I just leave you alone. You know what I mean? If we don't see eye to eye, I don't try to continue to converse with you and get you to change over, because that's not right either. However, if I see someone being unjustly or, treated wrong, or I feel like there's some ethics going on or some code of ethics being broken, then we got a problem. But other than that, I believe that I still believe in you have a right to your words, to your thoughts, and to your choices. Yeah. And that's it. I mean, whether they right or wrong in my world, as long as they don't harm me, then I'm okay. Right?
I like that. Okay. And and I think that's a pretty good spot to go out on too. I think we nailed it.
I don't know. Diversity is so different. I just hope we send a clear message, and if not, we hope that you'll be tolerant with us until we can.
And if not, like Kim says, suck it up, buttercup. Right?
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks a lot. Tune in next week. Share the video. If you're in any Facebook realtor groups, share it out with us. Look at it on YouTube. Do whatever.
This is a great podcast.
Flat Bill Hat's coming in to turn us off. Nick's like, it stopped 14 minutes ago. You guys have been dead. Yeah.